Now, this man had a completely functional endocrine system and an amazing physique before starting TRT, and now he has a little bit more of an amazing physique and he has more energy to make cash, but at what cost? Was it really worth it? What's up folks, it's Morenas from Brussels. Welcome to another video. Today I will be reacting to one of my favorite YouTubers and one of the only fitness influencers who is 100% transparent about his testosterone usage and about why he started. How to Beast or David de las Morenas. It's been exactly 4 years he's on the juice right now, and he made an honest review and an assessment after 4 years that's pretty interesting. He already admitted previously that he started testosterone replacement therapy because he wanted to keep on making gains in the gym and he wanted to keep his current lifestyle of making cash and building muscle. He started at 30 years old, by the way. So let's watch the video and see how it's going after 4 years on TRT.
Man, it is crazy to think it's been almost 4 years since I started my TRT journey. You know, it was back right around my 30th birthday that I went in and got my levels tested, and the results came back a bit below average test for my age, and it didn't really surprise me because in my late 20s I'd started noticing that I was not recovering as quickly from my workouts. I was feeling a bit more fatigued all the time, and this was the same time my life was getting busier than ever. You know, YouTube grinded up to 1 million subscribers. We had just launched Edge and some other businesses, and that's when I made the difficult decision to start TRT, partly to see if it would alleviate these symptoms, but partly also, if I'm being honest, to document it on YouTube, because at the time no one was being honest about this stuff. I think Brandon Harding was the only one who had come out and been open about his gear use, and also I'd been lifting naturally for about 8 or 9 years. I felt like I had basically maxed out my genetic potential, and I was curious to see if I got doctor prescribed TRT with regular blood work, could I increase my physique to the next level.
So if I remember correctly, before starting his testosterone levels were in the mid 500 nanograms per deciliter. Here in Belgium, no doctor will prescribe you TRT with those levels. His levels weren't exactly the best, but considering he was under a lot of stress, he didn't sleep a lot and he was working a lot of the times, his levels were actually quite good for a natural, and I think he still could have optimized his levels instead of hopping on TRT. I repeat, no doctor will prescribe you TRT here with those levels, but he hopped on TRT to hoping to continue making gains, and he was 100% transparent and honest about it, and I really appreciate that. As long as you don't lie and you don't try to sell me anything, I'm completely fine with you taking testosterone. Let's be honest, who actually think these fitness influencers are all still natural?
So I got started, and about 6 months in, I'd seen some pretty drastic changes to my physique. It looked like I put on about 5 to 10 pounds of mass. It was almost like I had experienced newbie gains again, but then after that 6 months, things kind of leveled out, like my body had adjusted to that new test level. Also, I had more energy, I was recovering faster, and my sex drive, which wasn't a problem before TRT, it got a bit intense, if I'm being honest. Maybe it was a bit too much. But something that's interesting to me is the size I am seems to be dependent on the dose. And a lot of people say, oh, you know, you can run cycles and then just cruise on TRT to maintain all those gains you've made. And I'm not sure that's true from my experience. Because ready, I started at 200 milligrams per week, but then slowly I actually lowered my dose down to 100 milligrams per week, which is half of that. And this is partly because I optimized my protocol. I switched from 1 injection to week to doing every other day. That seemed to raise my overall levels. Then I switched from injecting into my belly fat into intramuscular in my ventro glute. That seemed to improve the efficiency at which my body uptook the testosterone.
Alright, so he got started on quite a high dosage, 200 milligrams per week, especially in 1 injection. Considering a healthy adult male produces between 4 and 7 milligrams per day, that's actually quite a high starting dosage. His protocol certainly was not ideal because 1 big injection per week can create lots of ups and downs, and you're actually ending up on a hormonal roller coaster. So I think it's better to split his injection exactly like he's doing and lowering his dosage. Being stable and not on a freaking roller coaster is going to be much better for your mood, your libido, and your energy.
And if we look at my physique now versus at my absolute peak, granted the lighting might be a bit better there, I would say it appears I've lost potentially a little size. Maybe you can see a little bit in like the chest and the delts. Now to be fair, I've also lost a little bit of weight during that time, but my body seemed to want to hold more muscle mass at the higher dose. And maybe it was more my free T level than the actual dose, because if we look at what my free T was during, you know, that peak physique time, was always kind of between 200 to 300. And now for the past year, it's dropped down below 200. Also, it's important to mention that I stopped taking HCG over the past year, which is supposed to, maintain testicular function. Granted, my balls haven't shrinked up, but that also boosts test levels. So I think I dropped that out, not realizing that I would have to raise my test dose to compensate. So like I said, I am increasing my dose, but I'm not just gonna crank it back up to 200. I'm gonna be smart about it. What the hell, man? I can't get my shirt on. I actually increased it 6 months ago from 105 up to 135 milligrams per week. And if we take a look at the recent blood work, that free T is getting right about in that range we want it to be at. So I'm gonna increase it just a little more up to 150. To see what the next blood work says.
So he made a lot of gains at the start of his testosterone replacement therapy, but afterwards, when lowering his dosage, he wasn't able to keep all of those gains. He's still packing an incredible amount of muscle mass. Not everybody is going to look like Mike O'Hearn on testosterone replacement therapy. He's talking about free testosterone, and yes, indeed, your free testosterone will be the most important one to build contractile tissue, as it's the testosterone that is free to use in your body to build that muscle, as it's not bound to sex hormone binding globulin. It's crazy to see how people can react differently to testosterone replacement therapy and metabolize it differently, because I'm on a lower dosage that he is now and my testosterone levels are double his. Maybe I should start to make fitness video too, man. He also said he had to drop his HCG because of shortages, and here in Belgium it's been exactly the same. The product we used to have here was named Pregnil, and it was actually removed from the market about 1 year ago. So I also had to drop HCG from my protocol. HCG under the name of Pregnil used to cost like 10 euros for 4,500 IUs, and they replaced it by Ovitrel a couple of months ago, I believe, but it's much more expensive. It's like 5 times the price. Some people used to abuse Pregnil, and I heard that's why they removed it from the market. Let's continue.
Also, I started finasteride to prevent any balding. The standard dose is 1 milligram per day. I split that into quarters, do 0.25 per day. But that blocks some of the conversion from testosterone to DHT. DHT, if it's high, it can accelerate that balding. And that, as a result, I think also boosted the test levels a bit.
Very interesting is also that he's on finasteride to prevent hair loss. If you have male pattern baldness in your genetics, and if you hop on testosterone replacement therapy, the chances that it will accelerate your hair loss are really high. Now, finasteride is not something to take in lightly. Trust me, it's a shit drug. It blocks off the conversion of testosterone to DHT, and it really sucks. Now let's look at his conclusion after 4 years on TRT.
But if I'm keeping it real with y'all, if I could go back in time, I might not have started TRT, because it's been 4 years and I've had to keep making these adjustments and these optimizations, and it's not like on a daily basis it's stressing me out, but I have gone through some periods where my levels got too high and my blood pressure was high, and I don't want to sacrifice my longevity and my long-term health. And I know it's easy for me to say this, but if it wasn't for documenting it on YouTube, I probably wouldn't have done it. I would have done it eventually, I think, but I would have pushed it off to later in my 30s. The thing is, now that I'm doing it, I'm not gonna go through the hassle of getting off, because I am doing regular blood work. I'm making sure that all of my levels are in healthy ranges. Maybe when I have to try and get pregnant with Julia, if I do have to come off, which could be the case, I don't know if I'll get right back on or not. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that I regret it and I shouldn't have done it. I think it's had a net positive impact on my life over the last 3 or 4 years, but I just want to be fully transparent with y'all. And there would not have been a downside to pushing it off later into my 30s, and there's no reason to rush into something like this. There's a lot of people on gear and tests and SARMs these days, and it's not a decision to be taken lightly. When you start manipulating your hormone levels, there can be long-term consequences.
I appreciate the man's honesty, because I think a lot of people are hopping on TRT hoping that it's going to be the magical pill and the solution to all of their problems. And of course there are positive sides to TRT, but there are also lifelong side effects. Many influencers are also secretly on the juice, and they would rather sell you their workout programs and their magical freaking supplements instead of telling you that they are actually on the juice. Now, there are consequences to TRT. Let me explain. First of all, our friend How To Be says that he's on finasteride to prevent hair loss because he has male pattern baldness. Side effects from this medication can be really harsh on your life and on your relationships around you, depending on the individual. You're blocking the conversion of testosterone into DHT on the hopes to stop hair loss, and side effects can include depression, anxiety, erectile dysfunction, anxiety, stress, and so on. On top of that, it can create other disbalances in your hormones, for example, estrogen. It's a shit drug to take, trust me, and I know what I'm talking about, but it keeps head It keeps hair on your head. Would he have needed this drug if he had never started testosterone replacement therapy? I don't think so. Secondly, another side effect of TRT is that your own testicles are no longer producing your testosterone. So if you want to keep testicular function, you actually need to take medication for that. That was the HCG that he was talking about. Thirdly, he was talking about pregnancies. Now don't get me wrong, people on TRT can still get their partner pregnant. Even bodybuilders on extreme dosages like Ronnie Coleman back in the days could make their wife or their girlfriend, whatever, pregnant and have children. But nonetheless, there is a good chance on testosterone replacement therapy his fertility was actually affected because his testicles are no longer producing his own testosterone. So he might have to go into a fertility clinic the day that he wants to have a child, and he might have to take extra medication like HCG, like FSH, like HGM and so on to just have swimmers down there. Is that something he took into consideration before starting testosterone replacement therapy a couple of years ago? Who knows, but I really don't think so. Lastly, and people don't actually realize this enough, once you start testosterone replacement therapy, you can't come off anymore. You depend 100% on what's in the needle for your testosterone. So without any medical help and assistance, and especially after 4 years, it's going to be pretty much impossible to stop testosterone replacement therapy. And this is the same for pretty much everyone. It's not medical advice, it's my personal opinion, but I really don't think it's possible to quit TRT. Now this man had a completely functional endocrine system and an amazing physique before starting TRT, and now he has a little bit more of an amazing physique and he has more energy to make cash, but at what cost? Was it really worth it? It's difficult to say. Between the dosage adjustments, the ups and downs, the side effects and the other drugs that he has to take because of the TRT, I'm not sure. It's a personal choice, of course, but if you want to hop on TRT, just be aware of the consequences, the side effects and so on. Take your time to educate yourself and to inform yourself properly. Don't do it for your muscle gains and for the lifestyle and so on, unless you live in a 1.5 million mansion in Marbella and you drive an RSQ3 Audi and you have the influencer lifestyle. Special thanks to David, by the way. It takes balls to make these kinds of video and to be 100% transparent and open about these kinds of issues, and I really appreciate it. Alright, ending it here. Leave me a comment to help the algorithm of my channel. Thank you for watching. I will catch you on the next one. Morenas out.